Okay, friends, good morning. And today we are going to discuss the concept called causation in history. See, so far we have studied about the internal and external evaluation. We evaluate the sources and then we write history, or we proceed with our research. And in research, this concept of causation is very important. In fact, as I told you earlier, the one of the important intention of this paper, historiography, is to make you a better researcher as well as to give you a proper perspective, better understanding of historical facts. Now, what is the meaning of causation? For example, I'll make a simple statement that the Britishers they came to India in small number, but they conquered the whole country. And what are the things they have conquered? Against whom they fought the wars? If we just keep our analysis of history confined to these facts only, our understanding of that big event will not be proper. What we need to do actually is we need to also understand what were the causes that prompted the Britishers to sail from their country and come to India, which is thousands of miles away. Second thing is that we also need to analyze the causes. How could the Britishers, who were very small in number, could defeat such a huge country, such a huge population, and establish their hegemony? Until unless we make an analysis of these events, until unless we try to search the causes behind this historical event, our understanding of history will not be a proper understanding. So behind all the historical event, there are certain causes, and when we try to understand the causes behind the historical event, that is a causation in short. Let us go to the PPT now. Well, okay. I hope you can see the PPT. One of you please unmute yourself and tell me if you can see that, and also you can see me and hear me.
Yes, sir.
Okay, fine, fine. Let us go ahead. Well, so this is a kind of introduction. The job of historian is not only to narrate the event, but to satisfy the curiosity why these certain things have taken place and find the reason behind the event. This is known as causation. And this causation makes the historical event meaningful. Otherwise, if you just have a knowledge that the Britishers came and they conquered India, probably the it will not be very meaningful thing. We need to understand the reason, what gave them, what prompted them to come, and that will give us a true perspective. Without causation, history will become only a record of event. And R.G. Collingwood, he compares this kind of history without causation is like a railway timetable. Railway timetable is full of information. We know which train is coming to, is starting at what time and from which station and coming to which station and reaching to its destination. But that the information are not interconnected. One information is not connected to another information, and this causation, they lead to the kind of interweaving of events. What happen is, one historical events become a cause of another historical event, and that event become a cause of another historical event. So this chain reaction in the causation is also very important, and that gives us a proper perspective. Let us go back to our earlier example, the Britishers coming to India from such a long distance. Now what prompted them. If you go into the deeper understanding of that historical event, there will be a chain reaction. For example, in Europe, there was a Renaissance, and after Renaissance came Industrial Revolution. With Industrial Revolution, the Britain became an industrialized nation. As the industries were increased, they started looking for the colonies which can supply them raw material, as well as which can be a market for their goods that is manufactured in those factories, in those industries. So and then they started looking out for the colonies, and then they started exploring the different part of the world. First they went there for doing business, and then later on taking the opportunity of the political uncertainties, they established their domination over India. So there is a long reason. Renaissance has started in 14th 15th century, and the Britishers, they started their conquest, let us say, from Battle of Plassey, that is in the 18th century. So there is a long event. The reason behind the conquest of India by the Britishers, it has evolved slowly. It has evolved gradually with maybe with the coming of the Renaissance. So the Renaissance became the cause of the Industrial Revolution. The Industrial Revolution became the cause of the growth of industries and factories. The growth of factories and industry prompted the Britishers to go out, to venture out and look for colonies. And this desire for colonies led to the imperialism and the domination of India. So, there is a chain reaction that one event becomes a cause of another event, and that event becomes a cause of further events. And this is what we do in causation. So, the early this causation, though it has become a very important feature after 19th century, but anything, as I told you, anything in the humanities, especially, and in science as well, it evolves slowly. There is nothing, suddenly that eureka eureka moment is just a facade that we see. But behind that eureka moment, behind that discoveries, or behind that important historical event, there is a long reason. The historical event that we see on the surface is like a tip of iceberg. When the ship goes into the sea, the expert captain know that what you see as an iceberg, big iceberg, there could be a big kind of mountain of ice under the sea, under the layer of the sea, like it was shown in the movie Titanic. If you have seen that movie, it's a huge iceberg, and the ship hits that iceberg, and then that hull gets cracked, and that leads to a lot of problem. So what we see apparently as a historical event might be just a tip of iceberg, might be just a very, very small thing that we see. There could be a lot of things that lead to that kind of event. So, the earliest person whom we consider about Greek historiography we will be studying later on. But the earliest person who really thought about doing causation is none other than Herodotus, whom we call as the father of history, because he is the first person who has given a kind of scientific foundation to history. He is a person who tried to separate history from mythology. We will be studying about him later on. But Herodotus, while trying to understand the different wars between the Greece, Greece was divided into the small kingdom. So those kingdoms used to fight among themselves. Then there was a unification of Greece, and then they fought long drawn war with Persia. So he not only narrates the events of this war, but he also tries to understand the causes behind these wars. Similarly, there was an Arab historian, Arab historiography. Arab historian have also played a very important role in the medieval period. We'll be studying about Arab historiography as well. So in this Ibn Khaldun, he was a genius of his time, and this Ibn Khaldun, the Arab historian, had also done some causation, and he said that it is very important for a historian to search for the causes behind the event. Now, the cycle of cause and effect. This I have already told to you, but I just made a graphic representation here. See, this is one event, and from this event, another event emerge. In fact, this first event becomes a cause of next event, and you see here from another, another event is emerging from this event. So, there is a kind of cyclical interconnection between the historical event, that one event becomes a cause of another event, this event become a cause of another event, this event become a cause of another event, so on and so forth. And this is an unending process. See, what we are today, what India is today, is a result of the lot of things that were happening for, let us say, centuries together, one after another. We fought against the Britishers, and then we owned the independence, and we had a mixed economy, and then there was a liberalization, so on and so forth. So, what the life we are enjoying today, all this prosperity and all, it have a long reason behind that. Lot many people have fought against the British hegemony, and lot many people have worked very, very hard to develop the economy. And one thing leads to another. Well, so in the 19th century, this search for the causation has become more important. They said we must try to understand the causes, and without causation, the history is lifeless. Important point is over. Let me just see this slide. This is our cycle of cause and effect. I have already, well, and until unless you understand this cycle, you cannot have a better perspective of history. For example, the example I told you about the Britishers coming to India, there is a cyclic process. So until unless you go into the detail of it, you will not understand how could the Britishers conquered India. Well, then, similarly, one event, behind one event there could be a lot of building up of reasons behind that. For example, Hitler, he attacks Poland, and that became an immediate cause of Second World War. But that is the only immediate cause. it is not the only and sole cause. Behind that, there is a lot of causes. For example, there was a rivalry for power, there was a rivalry for having more and more colonies, there was a competition, and Hitler was quite ambitious person, so on and so forth. This Poland attack on Poland. Behind that, there seems to be a lot of causes which we need to understand. Well, Well, sometimes there are many reasons. This is also I have already covered. In fact, this PPT is bit longish type. That being behind one historical event, there could be multiple reasons. For example, there are few examples I will give. Uh, like there was a Protestant movement in Europe, and this Protestant movement, the leader of this Protestant movement was Martin Luther. But we just can't give the complete credit of Protestant movement to Martin Luther. There were a number of reasons. For example, there was a lot of corruption in the church, and the people were quite oppressed by the church authority. There was a lot of exploitation of the masses. So that is how this protest movement came. Similarly, in case of Russian Revolution, we just can't say that the it's Lenin, the leadership of Lenin, which was mainly responsible for this revolution. No doubt, Lenin has played a very important role in unifying people. He had a magnetic personality, no doubt about it. But nevertheless, there were many causes. The people, the serfs, and the peasants, they were exploited. The condition of the worker was pretty bad, and that has built up kind of momentum which led to this revolution. And while analyzing the causes, we also need to understand that there are certain causes which are more important. There are certain causes which are of less significance, and a historian or the researcher should be aware of the bigger and smaller causes. Well, so Professor Gal Gutsavan Vasan, he suggested that while doing causation, we need to keep in mind certain things. First thing is that we need to understand what was the immediate cause. Then, before building up that immediate cause, there must be some intellectual reason. People must be thinking about the revolution. Revolution doesn't happen suddenly. The Britishers has not just one day thought that we'll go and conquer India. There is a long reason. People were, getting inspired by the European people were getting inspired by the nationalism, and they wanted to make their country as a big, as a stronger country, economically more prosperous than other European country. And these are the intellectual reasons, the nationalistic inspiration of the European people that led to the colonization of Asia and Africa. And then to understand the causes properly, to understand the history in a proper perspective, we also need to understand who were the people who were related to event. Do they belong to the same group or do they belong to the different group? So it will give you understand what kind of effect the earlier events were having it onto the different group. For example, let us say in case of India, there India is a kind of caste sensitive country, and the challenges to this caste system had been coming mostly, if not all, but mostly they were coming from the oppressed class, the lower caste people, because they were the people, the lower caste people, who were badly affected by this oppressive caste system when they were not allowed to grow. So we need to understand that one particular group is a beneficiary, another particular group is an exploited group, and that is the reason probably it led to the kind of evolution. During 1857, there were a number of people who sided with the Britishers. There were a number of people who fought with the revolutionaries. So we need to understand that how the historical event had affected one people, how that group have reacted, and how another group have reacted. We just cannot, oversimplify the thing. We'll be coming explaining this term called oversimplification later on. But for here, you just try to understand that it's quite possible that you just can't combine together the whole country and say that this whole country is affected, which is not the case. Probably within a country or within a particular geographical area, there might be some people who are siding, who are in a opposite camp. Well, what were its sources and strength or weakness? Any historical event, we must try to understand its strength, weaknesses. 1857, take an example. What were the weaknesses that the Indian could not defeat the Britishers, and what were the reaction of the different group in the society? For example, when Dr. Ambedkar have started his movement of doing away with untouchability or giving a proper place to the lower caste people, what was the reaction of the different group? In fact, in Ambedkarite movement, there were a number of people who came from upper caste. There were Brahmins as well. So this gives an indication that within that group called Brahmins, the upper caste, who were generally being an oppressive of the lower caste, there were certain people who were liberal minded, and they supported this Ambedkar's movement of having access to the water, or allowing the Shudras to get entry into the temple. So we need to understand these complexities and intricacies. We just can't simplify that all the Brahmins were the oppressors and all the Shudras they joined the movement. This will be kind of oversimplification. So while doing causation, we need to understand these intricacies, these complexities of the historical event. Now, was there any political changes? Was there any technological changes that had also affected this kind of event? For example, technological changes. We have referred to the example of the Britishers. The Industrial Revolution, making the Britishers, or prompting them to go to search for the colonies. What was the geographical situation of the event? Why does it happen that in 1857 South India has remained by and large unaffected? Why the Punjab people from Punjab have supported the Britishers, and it remained mainly confined to the North Indian plains, what we call a Doab area, that is UP, Bihar, and Bengal. We need to understand this. What were the causes? So we just can't. If you are studying history of 1857, we just can't say that all over India there was rising. The rising against the Britishers was mostly confined to the North Indian plains. This we need to understand. Was there a geographical reason why the people in the particular geographical region has reacted differently to this event? Uh, and what was the relation with the different organization? This is again like how the different group behave, where their organization and which organization supported. For example, let us take the case of freedom struggle in India, and in roundtable conferences, though it was boycotted by Mahatma Gandhi and Congress, the representative of the lower caste they cooperated with the Britishers. Why did this happen? Definitely, there was a clash of interests of the Congress between the cross and between the Congress and the representative of the lower caste, that is Dr. Ambedkar. Ambedkar thought that Congress is, trying to protect the privileges of the upper caste, and Congress will never probably support the interests of the lower caste. So they deferred. So this organization they reacted differently to the proposal from the Britishers. When the Britishers invited Indian representative to the roundtable conferences, the reaction was quite different. Now let us come to this term. When we do causation, there is a term called oversimplification, and oversimplification I have already referred to. For example, there is a revolt of 1857. Now, revolt of 1857, it started with Mangal Pandey. Mangal Pandey is a person who fired on his British officer, and the revolt have started. But can we completely give credit to Mangal Pandey for starting a revolution? If we do that, that is oversimplification. We are just taking out one reason, and then saying that this person or this particular event was responsible for the very big event, which is definitely not the case. In fact, a lot of tension was building up between the Britishers and Indian before that revolt of 1857 took place. There was a discrimination. There was and so many things. The kings who were disposed of their territory and their kingdom were quite angry, and they started building up momentum against the Britishers. And the Mangal Pandey's action it proved as a spark. So this is called oversimplification. If you give credit only to the one event or one person for the bigger event, we need to understand there were a lot of causes. For example, um, when during the Second World War, when Germany attacked Great Britain, Winston Churchill was prime minister, and he very effectively led the country. But we just can't give the complete credit to Winston Churchill that he is a person who is responsible for the victory of Britain. There were a lot of reasons. Definitely, his leadership was important, but we need to understand a lot of reasons. Like the support that came from America at the right time was one of the important reason. The tenacity of the Britishers was one of the important reason. German attack on Russia, and Germany has to fight on two front. was also another important reason that has considerably weakened Germany at the crucial moment. So these are the things, these are the intricacies and complexities behind the historical event that we need to understand, explore when we do causation. We just can't take one event and simplify the thing. While doing research, there is a certain some of the scholars, they are having a kind of what we call is a kind of intellectual laziness. They don't want to go into the deeper and try to understand. They will just try to find out one or two causes and say, and go into the kind of self-congratulatory mood that I have found out the reason, I have written my thesis. If any one of you is interested in doing research further, you must take this into consideration that research is a serious business, and it needs a quite lot of hard work if you really want to do a serious kind of research. Well, so this is over part of oversimplification. I told you. So either giving credit or blaming also comes into oversimplification. For example, if we blame Bajirao second, the last Peshwa, will be you will be studying Maratha history in third and fourth semester. Bajirao Peshwa second. If the historian blame that it was only Bajirao second who was responsible for the downfall of the Maratha Empire, that is also oversimplification. There were a lot of reasons behind the downfall of the Maratha Empire. Okay. Now, behind the historical event, there is always reason, but there are certain historical events which will baffle the historian, and it seems to be just a kind of coincidence. And I will tell you one very interesting episode. There was a Roman general called Antony. And this Antony was very brave and very experienced general. He fought a lot of wars and he won most of the time. And then this Roman general, he attacks Egypt. And before the war, there is a attempt of negotiation. And he go then as a part of this negotiation, he has meeting with Cleopatra. Cleopatra was queen of Egypt, and she is believed in history to be a very beautiful lady. Now, there is a stories. We are not sure that this is a historical fact. When Antony had meeting with Cleopatra, he fell in love with her, and but the negotiation was unsuccessful. Egypt or Cleopatra refused to surrender, and then there was this battle. And the battle that took place after the meeting between Antony and Cleopatra, unfortunately, Antony lost that battle. And then there was a lot of stories that went around that during the meeting he fell in love, and at the time of the battle he was only thinking about Cleopatra, and in that also Cleopatra was believed to have had a very beautiful nose, and he was thinking about Cleopatra's nose, probably remembering her, and it's because of that the Romans have lost the battle. The Antony has lost the battle, and but then there is a counter argument which says that Anthony was a very seasoned and experienced general, and he is not a person who is going to think about a lady, and it's because of that he is going to ignore his duties and responsibility and lose the war. So that war he lost maybe because of other reason, but people just say that it's maybe because of that he lost. So this doctrine of Cleopatra's nose came to be a kind of phrase that is used in the causation, and this doctrine believes that there are some historical event behind which we just can't find out the reason. They just happen as a kind of coincidence. Like the Antony losing the war, he had all the things in his favor. He had a very strong army. Roman army was a very battle hardened, very strong army. But he lost, somehow he lost the battle, and we really don't know the reason. So there are certain events, there are certain things that happen just because of coincidence. For example, in the Indian history, I'll tell you the reason. In the second battle of Panipat, which was fought in 1556, Hemu was the commander in chief of Sur army, and he was very brave. He was very brave, and he had a very strong army, and he was about to win the war. But suddenly, what happened is an arrow comes from Mughal side and it strikes his eye. And as the arrow pierces his eye, he becomes unconscious. And as he becomes unconscious, he is taken down from the elephant, and he's taking down his unconscious body from the elephant. the people, the soldiers in his army, they thought that probably our commander in chief has died, and then they lost. Then they panic and then they started running away. And as they started running away, the Mughal commander Bairam Khan and Akbar, they took advantage. They attacked very vigorously, and the Sur army was was defeated. Later on, Hemu was caught and he was beheaded. He was killed. So this coming of striking of arrow at the crucial juncture in the eyes of the Hemu became the cause of the loss that the Sur army lost the battle. But this is just a coincidence. We just can't go into the detail and make an historical analysis and try to find out the causes, because we don't know from where the arrow came and how it came and how it has really pierced the eyes of the Hemu. So, when we do the causation, historian also cautions us that there are certain events, there are certain things in history which just happens because of the coincidence and unexpected thing, and we just can't really find out the rational reason behind it. So, lastly, to sum up, causation is very important in history. Without understanding the causes, we cannot have a proper perspective of understanding of the historical event. There is a cyclical reaction and interconnectivity between the causes. One event lead to become a cause of another, and so on and so forth. Uh, in doing causation, we should be cautious that we are not oversimplifying things, taking out one reason or blaming only one person or giving credit to one person. And when we do causation, there are also certain things which happens because of coincidence, and we just can't find the reason behind it. So that is a limitation in causation. So causation, I hope you understood the causation. If there is any doubt, you can ask. Yes. Is there any doubt? Anybody is having any doubt? You can ask me or put in the chat box. Otherwise, we are going to stop here for today. In the next class, we will be taking up two small topics. This topic was also not very big, in fact. Two small topic, that is footnote and bibliography. And once we do that, I think our second unit will be over. This first and second unit were not very. They did not have a lot of stuff. Third and fourth unit you have a bit of stuff. So I just the important things I have told you, you need to read it further to write out. You can listen. Is there any doubt from your side, students? Please, you can